expressed by siblings who are convinced that their parents love them equally. That kind of love comes from God, as well as an experience as a child of knowing you are equally loved as your siblings. My sisters and I believe to this day that our parents loved the other one more than they loved us. And I suspect we're not the only ones. Abraham and Sarah moved to the land of promise because God had promised that they would have a child together. In fact, God promised that their descendants would number more than the stars in the sky. Even though they were eligible for Medicare, Abraham and Sarah picked up and moved to an absolutely unknown land following a newly discovered God. Now, when the baby did not come, Sarah decided to take matters into her hands. She decided that Hagar, one of her slaves, would become the surrogate mother to her son. And this was not at all unusual in ancient days. So Abraham, without reportedly saying a word, agreed. Hagar became pregnant and gave birth to the boy Abraham named Ishmael. Abraham loved Ishmael as his firstborn son. Unfortunately, Sarah and Hagar were not able to develop a surrogate adoptive mother relationship. As a result, Sarah never really thought of Ishmael as her son, and Hagar made sure that Sarah knew that she, Hagar, was the mother of Ishmael. And needless to say, that made life around the tent kind of tense. Then Sarah gave birth to Isaac, Abraham's second son. Isaac was the miracle baby that God had promised to Abraham and Sarah. Isaac was the child that would carry on the covenant that God had established with Abraham. Abraham loved both of his sons with all of his heart. Sarah and Hagar did not. Sarah was jealous of Hagar because Hagar had given birth to Abraham's firstborn son. And in those days, the laws of primogeniture was in effect, which meant when Abraham died, Ishmael, the firstborn, would get 2/3 of everything Abraham owned, and he would be the elder of the tribe. Now, no doubt as the elder of the tribe, Ishmael would have set Hagar, his mother, free from slavery. Not only that, but Hagar would now have access to the majority of the money and the power that Sarah had previously owned and thought ought to be hers. Hagar would have more power, more stuff, more money, more everything. And Sarah, having been the matriarch along with Abraham, the patriarch, could not bear to think about this fall from her position. So she demanded that Abraham send Hagar and Ishmael away from the camp. She demanded that Abraham choose between his sons and their mothers. Now, according to the text, the only one who had the power, the position, and the ability to settle the dispute, to intervene, never said a word. Abraham never got involved in the dispute between Sarah and Hagar. He didn't talk to them about his love for both of his sons. He didn't work to resolve the issues between the two women. According to the record, he didn't say anything. Now, we know that Abraham was capable of speaking up. Just in the chapter before this, Abraham had spent at least a chapter arguing with God about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities where his brother Lot lived. In fact, he had argued with God throughout the whole chapter, saying that, look, these people were inhospitable to your messengers. That, by the way, was their crime, not the other stuff that we've been told before. They were inhospitable. In fact, they were willing to, the village was willing to offer Lot's daughters to do unspeakable things. But no, Abraham argued and argued to no avail. So we know he could speak up. But he didn't argue for both of his sons. Now, Isaac and Ishmael were not ignorant of the feelings of their mothers. And they knew they were not equally loved by the adults in their lives. Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar were not able to love both boys equally, and as a result, Isaac became the favored son, and Ishmael became the other son. Abraham did talk to God about this, and God assured Abraham that Ishmael would be cared for. In fact, God would make sure that Ishmael and Hagar survived the perils of exile from the tribe. And God promised, in spite of his difficult early beginnings, Ishmael would become the father of a great nation. And when the time came, Ishmael married a woman from Hagar's original country of Egypt and became the father of the other Semitic nation. Pride, jealousy, prejudice, fear, and silence added up to a division between the sons born of Abraham. And that division turned into a dispute that the Hebrew and Arabic people experience today. Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar were not able to love their sons equally. The pain of sending Ishmael and his mother out of their home continues to this day. So on this Father's Day, speaking to all of the adults here, I invite us to consider how silence, pride, prejudice, jealousy, and fear have divided us as a people today. Because we are all sons and daughters of God. And whether we like it or not, God loves all of us equally, just as God loved Isaac and Ishmael equally. Unfortunately, humankind has become divided because we've chosen not to accept that God's love is given equally to all people. We've decided that it's okay to be divided because we don't want to accept the idea that God really does love everyone equally. We've been unable to live with the idea that we may not be all that special. We've not been able to live with the idea that for us to show that God loves everyone equally, some of us might have to give up just a little bit of our power and our position and our privilege. Sarah could not accept Ishmael as an equal to her son Isaac because she and Hagar could not accept that they were equal in the eyes of God. Hagar developed an attitude towards Sarah because Sarah couldn't accept that she and Hagar were equal in the eyes of God. And through it all, Abraham, the only one who could have intervened, the only one who could have worked for a resolution, chose to stay silent. And as a result, Ishmael became the other son. We're living in a time when our nation has shown once again that it's incredibly clear that we do not accept that God loves all people equally. Issues of race, sexuality, and gender identity have been in the headlines this week. And all of those things have become issues because many of us have trouble believing and accepting that God loves everyone the same, that God loves everyone equally. We have allowed pride, jealousy, fear, prejudice, and silence to turn others, whom God loves just as much as God loves us, into the other sons and daughters in our world. We've allowed pride, jealousy, fear, prejudice, and silence to turn people who are different from we are into the other. We've allowed others to be sent away from positions of power and privilege because we want to keep them for ourselves. That was Sarah's biggest sin. She couldn't give up some of her power, some of her position, some of her privilege to Hagar and Ishmael. And the only one who could do anything stayed silent. So God made the other son the father of a great nation. And the nations of Isaac and Ishmael eventually found a way to turn their mother's conflict into their own modern-day conflict. And those nations will not have peace until they accept that God loves the sons of Isaac and Ishmael equally. We won't have peace in our hearts, or our communities, our denomination, or our nation, until those of us who have power and position and privilege begin to speak. We will not have peace until those of us who know that God loves everyone just the same, help all people understand this truth. We will not have peace until we make sure that all of the children in our communities know that they are equally loved because they have equal opportunity, equal access, and equal to the children that we claim as ours. We have the power to speak up, and I know some of us would rather hide under the bed than speak up. I know that some of us who are shy, who are introverted, would really rather wear a mask that keeps us quiet all the time, rather than say something when we hear, read, or see something that implies that God doesn't love everyone the same. But when we are silent, we allow people God loves to become the other son, or the other daughter, or the other. We allow difference to become conflict, and conflict to become brutality, and brutality to become war. As children of God, we have the opportunity to share the good news of God's love for all people. And as followers of Jesus, silence in the face of prejudice, fear, pride, and jealousy is not acceptable. Sarah and Hagar couldn't see past their own self-interest. Abraham stayed silent, and Ishmael became the other son. If we want true peace, silence just is not an option. Amen.
Amen.